Hello.
Hello and welcome to the Canadian Bro Show. My name is Paul Bale. I'm the founder and host of the Canadian Bro Show. And we're back for a really special episode at the Canadian Bro Show podcast. And this episode is we're going back to the best neighborhood in the Lower Mainland of Vancouver, British Columbia in 1972.
Wow.
And that is Kitsilano Beach.
Where we grew up.
Where we grew up, literally a block and a half from each other.
Yeah.
And the handsome gentleman to my right and directly in front of you and your right is Mr. Johnny Leister. He's the co-host of the Canadian Bro Show. Johnny, how you doing in Vancouver? He's filming from his own professional studio at the Vancouver Library. The only person in Vancouver, don't tell anyone, that actually has his own studio in a public library. And the Public Library of Vancouver looks like a miniature version of the Roman Colosseum.
Indeed it does.
And Johnny, what's shaking in Vancouver? Is it a nice day today?
It's a very beautiful day. Vancouver summers are notoriously brief. Of course, when the weather is hot, people complain. When it rains, people complain. But I'm elated. I try to get outside as much as I can because come September, the wrath of God torrential downpour begins and it lasts for 10 months. How are things in Kelowna where you live?
A lot better than that. And the wrath of the torrential rain, we do live in a rainforest and a desert, very uniquely on its own. And that has its issues. In Kelowna, it's less of an issue. It's the top end of the Sonoran Desert that goes all the way through Mexico, through the Americas, into British Columbia. And it is a beautiful desert summer day. It's not too hot. It's about 30 degrees. And really excited about talking about episode 77.
Here we are.
The best neighborhood in Vancouver, in the entire Lower Mainland of British Columbia, Canada. Vancouver is the Kitsilano Beach neighborhood.
Yeah, we're
and we remember it really well, but a lot of people might not know, and that's why we're doing the show. Both Johnny and I met in 1972 in the Kitsilano neighborhood. I actually, I was born in the UK in 1965, and my family moved shortly thereafter to Canada for a better life, thank goodness. And they landed in Winnipeg, and thank goodness we didn't stay in Winnipeg. A lot of good people there. It's beautiful, it's cold, it's mosquito-ridden, and if you're a Catholic Irish person, probably not the best location in Canada to come from Ireland at that time. However, my grandfather and my grandmother met very young, and she was from Iceland, and it was immediately love at 19 and started the whole family. And Icelandic Irish heritage. I've got a British father. I was born in the UK in Cambridge, and a Canadian mumsy. And thank God they moved to the west side of Vancouver. The first neighborhood was Point Grey, which is considered by many to be the best neighborhood of the west side of...
That's where David Duchovny lived when they were filming X-Files back in the day.
Absolutely. And a lot of wealthy people live there. I know a lot of people there. The UBC golf course there. UBC University has got a great campus up there, and there is a lot of First Nations land that they still have. There's a lot of leasehold land. And the neighborhood is used to be the elite neighborhood, but it went through like all neighborhoods, and it's not quite there again. However, we moved shortly thereafter to the Kitsilano Beach neighborhood, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And that's where I grew up. In 1970, we moved to Kitsilano, and Johnny and I met 2 years later in 1972 in Kitsilano, 1.5 blocks away. The name of the title, Kitsilano Beach, 1972. We're going back in time a little bit, and it's episode 77, the best neighborhood in Vancouver, British Columbia. And before I go any further, Johnny, I just wanted to share a little bit of First Nations history because it's integrated into Canadian culture.
It's one of those Nations name.
Yeah, whether you like it or not, there's a lot of issues going on with land claims and ineptitude in all levels of government and greed. But this show is about positivity. It's about the best neighborhood in one of the best cities in the entire world. And I wanted to talk a little bit about history. A lot of people talk about one of my nicknames is the Kitsilano Kid. I use that in basketball because I grew up in the basketball courts of Kitts Beach. And I wanted to come up with a moniker that was kind of true to my spirit and soul. And but a lot of people don't realize Kitsilano. It just kind of flows off the tongue, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
And it really does. And it's interesting that the Squamish and Salish people in the late 1800s had a chief that was highly respected here in the west coast of Canada. And it was actually his name was used to name the city of Vancouver, and his name was Chief August Jack Kitsilano, and he was from the Squamish band or the Salish, and they were based in False Creek and Stanley Park, and Kitsilano, and Chief August Jack Kitsilano had a commemorative Salish silver dollar minted in British Columbia by the Canadian Mint, and it had his name, Kitsilano, which Kitsilano was named. He was born in 1877 and passed in 1971. And this coin I'm looking at, silver here, it's got to be worth several $100s. Thought it'd be a lot more, but I just wanted to give a little history into the location where we met and where we lived, and our hearts and minds are still there. Johnny, 1972. What was your earliest memory in 1972? Is there anything that really you can bring back that just...
Well, I'll go back a couple of years before I get there. I was born in 1965. I grew up in Toronto for 4 years.
Nice.
And then my biological father fled to parts unknown. I never saw him again. And my mother wound up...
It's funny how they do that, eh?
Yeah, he flew the nest. And my mother used to work for Pinkerton's, which was a security and detective agency, a very famous security and detective agency that goes all the way back to the days of the Wild West. And my dad, John Leister Sr., I was actually born in Terence William Learmonth. That was my biological father's last name, Learmonth. I don't know if you knew that about me. It's actually a Scottish name.
Wow.
Well, my mom was a secretary for Pinkerton's, and she fell in love with my dad, and he was transferred to Vancouver. So one of my very earliest childhood memories is actually getting off the plane at Vancouver Airport and looking at my dad. It's really cool. My dad was a huge car guy. He loved, remember Car and Driver magazine?
Yeah.
He had a subscription. And one of my first memories is, oh gosh, I'm remembering this like it was yesterday, walking towards that orange Alfa Romeo that he was so proud of. And going into my apartment in Kitsilano, where my father had rented an apartment on 2nd Avenue, just a couple of blocks from where we live. And going to Henry Hudson, I guess I started in 1969, again in Kitsilano. I used to walk there. My mom would walk me there every day. My mom had terrible nerves.
But by the way, just to get a location, Johnny lived on 2nd and Vine and could walk to Henry Hudson. Henry Hudson was located on Cornwall and Cypress, right in Kitts Point. And that was the elementary school that my sister and I wanted to go to. But anyways, go on, Johnny. We'll fill you in later.
Well, my mom used to come to school every day and take me to lunch. She would take me to this Chinese restaurant on Cornwall Street that, of course, doesn't exist anymore. And she used to get terrible hives. Like her eyes would become infected, and she could never really figure out why. And she always wore dark sunglasses. So I remember all the kids were always asking me, is your mom blind? Your mom always wears these dark sunglasses. Like, what's going on with your mom? Because she had these terrible hives. She was just a very fearful person, and I was a very fearful kid. But I had a lot of fond memories of growing up at Henry Hudson, being in remember the assemblies and the performances and the plays. We did a lot of plays.
Yeah.
We did, I think in 1976 or so, we actually wrote, this is one of the first things I ever wrote. I'm just remembering this now for the first time. I wrote a Star Trek parody called Star Wreck. And I actually had the mustard color.
Are we into Star Trek reference already? We just started the show.
Well, this is a memory just like a repressed memory that just popped into my mind.
Oh, okay.
I actually had a mustard colored Captain Kirk shirt.
We're talking about Kitsilano, bro.
Well, this wasn't Kitsilano. This was at Henry Hudson. And I actually wrote this, and we had water guns instead of phasers. And I just remember me and Willie Todd and Simon Wells and a couple other kids, we were running around on stage shooting water guns at each other, and everyone in the audience, all the other kids watching were losing their minds. So those are some of my earliest memories of going to Henry Hudson back in the day. How about yourself, St. Augustus?
Well, I mean, it wasn't my earliest memory wasn't of St. Augustine's. I have many memories of St. Augustine's. It was actually moving to Belfour Rentals on 3rd, there between Vine and U, and that was our home base for the better part of 12, 13 years. And that's how I met you and Mike Pyshinsky and many, many, many others. Ryan Cadman, and one of the photos you sent me in the pre-show, I'm going to use of you jumping on your roof with Jazz's building in the background. I recognized it right away. Yeah, you had a fro, bro. And it was an incredible time, and honestly, Vancouver in the 70s is, you have no idea how special Vancouver was.
Especially
it was, and we had no idea because we were just kids. We didn't even recognize these things, but Vancouver was just, it was like kind of like Kelowna in the 50s. There's a 25 to 30 year difference, but at the end of the day, one of my first memories is moving into Belfour Rentals and getting on my banana seat bike, like we all had, and driving around the hood and meeting other people in the hood, playing, starting up Kick the Can and inviting everybody and setting the areas where you had to stay within block radius, and how we got to meet it. And really my memory is that it was slow motion in the 70s. Banana seat bikes, Slurpees, Pintos.
Superhero Slurpee cups. I think I had the whole collection. Those were so cool.
Until I broke them up after, when I found out the collection was completely useless and wasn't worth a dime. But it just reminded me of everything was sunny and quiet and peaceful.
It took me forever a day to learn how to ride a bike. I remember my dad.
Yeah, but it was also the end of the 60s and early 70s, so we also had the hippies. And there was a big hippie movement north of 4th.
You just sparked another memory. I sorry to interject. I remember walking with my mom along 4th Avenue, and I actually remember stepping over people. There were people lying on the sidewalk, like young people, kids in their teens and 20s, doing nothing, just smoking weed all day, and unwashed, unbathed, and asking for spare change, and unconscious half the time. It scared me. I was very fearful.
Yeah, not me at all. I was not fearful at all. I was just wise-eyed, open, and to me it was like, wow. I always loved Kits. I've been at Point Grey and Kits were the only places I knew in Western Canada, and it was the best place in the world to be. And once I discovered what Kitsilano really meant, and the peninsula of Kitsilano and Kits Point, and the beaches, and what's that?
Remember the planetarium?
Well, we're going to get there, Johnny. You got to let me get a sentence in, bro.
I thought I was doing that.
So, no, not really. You like to interject, and that's okay. What was a summer day? What did it feel like in 1972? Well, to me, back in 1972, Vancouver's beaches didn't need giant stages or corporate sponsors as it is today. The festivals was the beach itself. And it wasn't just Kitsilano Beach. We were just fortunate to have the best beach right in our backyard. But as you went along the peninsula up the west side of Vancouver, which goes all the way to University of British Columbia, and Wreck Beach, which is the last beach, in between Wreck Beach and Kids Beach, you have just one beach after another. You could hop on a bike and do literally 10, 12 beaches and go all the way up to Southwest Marine Drive up to UBC, and then come all the way back down and end up back at Kits, go to the pool for a swim, and then watch a show at you remember
the showboat, the Vancouver
Of course, the showboat. I mean, there was just so many ways, but let's just get into it and talk about it, and then we can just go from there. And the festivals. There was lots of festivals, but there wasn't any corporate sponsorship. So it wasn't any just, Kits Fest today and Chief Kitsilano Day, the music day in Kitsilano. They're corporate events. Back in the 60s and 70s, there was no corporate events. It was like 14 hippies taking up the entire corner of 4th and Vine, right where Plumley's car is, to sell incense and weed and mushroom muffins and all kinds of interesting things that could adjust your attitude if you decided to do that. We didn't need adjustment of attitude. We got our towels and got on our bikes and we explored Kitsilano every day. And Kitsilano, if you want to talk about, if you don't know what Kitsilano is and you're watching the show, is Kitsilano goes to Pine Avenue to the east, which is just before the Granville Bridge and the start of False Creek, and it goes up to 16th Avenue between Burrard and Alma, right. And then back down to Alma, down to Cornwall. It's Kitsilano. That is the best neighborhood, in my opinion, in all of Vancouver. The West End, it's incredible. And we grew up and we explored every single second of that I lived in Belfort Rentals for 13 years. Johnny, I don't know how long you lived at yours. You were just across the street from me. But at Kits, you had the showboat. And the showboat the Kits is one of the oldest and the largest outdoor pools in Canada, right. In the Western Hemisphere, as a matter of fact. It's, I believe, 5 or 6 Olympic-sized pools in succession. And back in the day, the old Kits Beach used to be just seawater until they started the new Kits Beach. And the reason why I brought that up is because Ryan Cadman and I, yourself and everybody else that lived where we did, we went to the beach all the time. Whether if you weren't an athlete, if you're a nerd, it doesn't matter. Kits Beach was excellent. You could take your bike down.
Chips.
Yeah, chips and Slurpees, and the Big Scoop ice cream was right down by. I mean, it was, we had to go for a Big Scoop. You had to get the ice cream. And also back then in the 70s, late 60s, you could play Pac-Man and have a huge ice cream and go down to the pool. Well, when the pool closed, they rebuilt the pool because it was just seawater coming in from no vents. And often Ryan and I would be in the pool. Ryan Cadman's my old friend, and in the thumbnail I will put a photo up of him and a photo of Johnny and any other photos I can find of us in the 70s and around that time. And when the new pool was open, Ryan and I were ready to go in the new pool, and we were down there. And our favorite lifeguard, the blonde Hulk that he was, he's still a lifeguard. I think he's been a lifeguard for 65 years. Tom forgot his jacket, his lifeguard jacket. They were salmon color. They were red, but after it faded, it turned into a salmon, sort of light orange. He said, "Paul, if you go down and get my jacket and my buddy's jackets, we'll let you and Ryan be interviewed on television, and you guys will be the first ones in the pool." And I was like, hell yeah, let's go, bro. So I bolted over there and grabbed the jackets, and Tom was true to his name. And they had reporters from the Vancouver Sun and the Province and CKVU. And there is footage somewhere in the library, Johnny. When you go to the library more than I do, you should go find that and see if there's some, because I looked online digitally and I didn't get much. But it's there because we got interviewed. And then so Ryan and I get there, we get interviewed, and we're like 11 years old. We're soaking wet. It's kind of cold. It's late May day, so the weather hadn't really got into summer, and the water wasn't the seawater anymore, which is probably a good thing because there was all kinds of things floating in Kids Pool for decades. You know what I'm saying?
Right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so they let us in. We went in, and I tell you what, it was freezing. And we came back, and we're interviewed, and I think I was hogging the interview. No surprise there. And but I remember my parts of my body that were really cold all of a sudden disappeared into the inside of my body.
I wonder which parts.
Oh, let's say that this is not a children's show, but it's adults. Just don't want to state the obvious, but I mean that. The new pool at Kits Beach is what was the epicenter of Kitsilano Beach. There was the basketball courts. There was the CNN train, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember the train and the train tracks?
Oh yeah, it's been
I
happening.
think it was 746.
I can't remember. It was
And
very
it's-
sad when they took that train away.
No, well, it's down in Yaletown.
Yeah, it's
At
in
the
a-
Roundhouse Community Center. It's still there.
Piece, yeah.
I used to climb that thing all the time. There was the tennis courts. There was the beach volleyball. There were the 2 basketball courts. There was the gymnasium area with the rings and the pommel bars. And there was the sand area with the children's area. And there was the pommel horse. Do you remember the big fur? There was like 6 big 30-foot long fur teeter-totters
Yeah.
just on the other side of...
The monkey
So...
barbie.
There was no shortage of things to do at Kits Beach, and because we lived in Kits Beach neighborhood, the best neighborhood in Vancouver, if you ever come to Vancouver, go to Kits. It's not the same as what it was, but it's still fantastic, and it's
pretty awesome.
it's got good eye candy. There's a lot of beautiful people, and the beach goes on. I mean, it connects you all the way into False Creek. It connects you all the way west into Granville Island, of course, and then as you go west from Kits, you start to go into the next beaches, and that's Locarno and Jericho Beach. And then you get into Spanish Banks East, and then Spanish Banks West, where they have the dog park. And then it finishes up at the Peninsula UBC, where they have the nude beach, Wreck Beach. And then it continues around the peninsula.
At Wreck Beach.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny used to go to Wreck Beach all the time because he was very much into nudism. Isn't that true, Johnny?
Paul, your nose is growing. Pinocchio. I went the one time with Brian Elkin. It was very disappointing.
Oh, God. Yeah, well.
Yeah, cojones.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you walk around there and you can get disappointed. At the end of the day, you just got to be yourself. Yeah. And, we didn't have festivals back in the beach days, but we did have, every year there was something going on. Like, in Jericho Beach, before they did Habitat for Humanity, the big Habitat thing. Sure. That was fun. And before that, they used to have like a hippie fest, and it would just be 100 different booths of people selling, hippie. Yeah, well, that was just a little bit west into the nude beach, of which Ryan and I used to go often. Because we wanted to climb. They used to have old. In the Second World War, they had these towers all around the peninsula. There was probably about 10 of them until they started dissipating and falling apart. And they were gun towers. So it was trying to, if anybody was going to come down that strait from the Vancouver Island or come up from Russia or whatever, they were going to get hit. And it was just a bluff because it didn't happen. But nonetheless, those ended up, and some of them are still there. We're talking 60s here, late 60s.
Do you remember the 9 o'clock gun?
Yeah, it still goes, right?
I haven't heard it in such a long time.
It does, because when I'm downtown at my condo, I'm not far from you.
Oh, because I'm working, that's why I don't hear it.
Yeah, exactly. And it echoes, and sometimes the gun's louder than, but we hear it all the time because we're looking.
It must be terrifying for tourists. They must think it's a terrorist attack.
Yeah, it could be. And the other things at Kits Beach that were amazing was Kits Point. And Kits Point had a number of parks. It had a dog park down there. It had Hadrian's Park, which is where my wife and I got married. We decided to go and do an organic wedding with this beautiful lady named Mrs. White, who was white hair, white dress, all linen. She lived in a house that was across the street from Hadrian's Park, which is right next to Kits Beach basketball courts and the gym area. And she lived in a house on White Street, and her last name was White, and she was wearing white, and she was the ceremony that married my wife and I at Hadrian's Park. I mean, what are the odds? But that's it's what happened. So when you're integrated in Kitsilano, like Johnny and I, there's so many incredible stories. Yeah. But the beautiful part about Kits Point is it was quite exclusive, and there was the it had the Maritime Museum, which was a really nice architectural setup, and it had the St. Rock, which is a famous historical wooden ship that went up through the north, past Alaska into the Bering Strait, into areas where wooden ships would not last very long. And then just close to that is incredible amounts of art and the planetarium. The planetarium is right across. The planetarium represented architecture that was completely unique to the Salish and the Squamish tribes I mentioned earlier with August Jack Kitsilano. And the planetarium was designed with First Nations in mind. And they had museums in there. They had a cafe. They had an art gallery. They used to do studio sessions. You could learn how to do the arts. And of course, they had the famous Pink Floyd show that they used to put on in the planetarium, and you would sit in this round dome like a huge spaceship.
It's still there.
It's still there, and they still do it.
Yeah.
And it was an hour and a half of Pink Floyd.
And it has a metallic crab structure.
Absolutely. On the exterior, it's all cement and white. You got to see it.
Cool.
If you've never been there, it's really cool. And we'd go down there and play, and we go down there on a weekend and go at 9 o'clock in the morning on our bikes and stay all day and find something to do. In the winter, they had ponds behind the planetarium that would freeze, and we play ice hockey on the ponds in the early 70s. I'm serious. It was crazy. And then, of course, across from the planetarium, if you're into stars, because when you're watching one of the shows in the planetarium, the air is really fresh in there, and the Pink Floyd music is blaring. We're talking 1972 to 74. This is when Pink Floyd was the number one band in the world, and they released Pink Floyd, all of it. And so we'd be there, and sometimes we'd sneak in and just get a show free. I probably saw the show 300 times, and every time is amazing. And they also had, if you're into stargazing, right across the street from the planetarium was the observatory, where you could go on a clear night and take a look and stargaze. And then if you continued along past that area, I know all this because when I lived in my camper van, my 1971 Volkswagen Westphalia, which I mentioned last episode on, pieces where the signal isn't, that's where I used to park my van. And then, of course, if you keep on going east of that, you're right on False Creek seawall. And now the seawall is connected all the way around Stanley Park and False Creek, all the way up to University of British Columbia, and it's over 50 kilometers of seawall. So if you're a biking enthusiast, that's another place that you can enjoy that. And Kitsilano has everything to offer and more. Johnny, what do you remember of Kitsilano yourself? Did you used to walk to Henry Hudson every morning?
I would walk to Henry Hudson, and sometimes my mom would take me. I guess she was afraid that I was going to get kidnapped. I remember Greenpeace on 4th Avenue. I actually learned today that it was originally called the Don't Make a Wave Committee. And I remember walking by. I remember my friend Willie Todd, he was a member, and he was always trying to get me to join Greenpeace. And I was like, well, if I so much as take 1 foot into that building, my dad is going to take my head off.
Yeah.
There was the Vancouver, I don't know if this is a politically safe word to use in 2026, but there was the Vancouver Indian Center.
Yes, that was across the street from Belfour Rentals.
Right, where it was sort of kind of a social club where everybody was
It was an actual community center. It was fantastic. Yeah. I spent many years going there.
Yeah, I think I only went there the one time, and when I told my dad, he lost his mind.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan and I would go there in the morning because they had a boxing ring in the basement. So we'd put on 16-ounce gloves and beat the hell out of each other.
Oh, wow.
They had free coffee, tea, and juice, like Kool-Aid. And they had a really nice gym and library on the middle floor. And that was one of the things that we used to do. They were turned into condos, and that whole building was sold, turned into condos where they stand right now in 1979. And that's another amazing story, It's like Kitsilano House, straight up the same street on 6th and Vine was the Kitsilano Community House as well. I mean, there was just so many things going on.
Yeah.
And Johnny, my sister and I wanted to go to Henry Hudson. It was the best school because it was down by Kitts Beach. And if you had a lunch hour, which was an hour, a lot of people wouldn't eat lunch, and they just go to Kitts Beach, go sit in the sand and have their lunch, and then come back because it was right across the street. I mean, pretty amazing location. But my mom and my family decided that my sister and I go to St. Augustine's, which is a Catholic school, a small Catholic school on 7th and Arbutus, which was sort of the epicenter of Kitsilano at that time.
Sure.
And across the street from Kitsilano's high school was the parish at St. Augustine's, where I had my communion. But more importantly, behind that parish, 1 block away, was the largest loaf of bread I have ever seen in my life. Do you remember the place where they made fresh bread every morning, a huge loaf of bread?
Sparking a memory.
It's right where Beano's was.
Right on Broadway.
Right above it. And they ended up taking it down, but it was a hand coming out the roof, and in the hand was a massive loaf of bread. And it just kept on turning 360 degrees, and it would light up at night on neon. And it was the coolest, most iconoclastic sign of late 60s, early 70s in Kits, right on Broadway and Arbutus. So thought I'd bring that up too, right?
You remember, do you remember the Vineyard on 4th Avenue? The Vineyard on 4th and Vine?
Yes, my mom used to work there.
Really?
As a waitress. Yeah.
I guess she served me. I was not even aware of it at the time.
Yeah.
But our mutual friend Brian Olk and I, we went there quite frequently on the weekends and after school, and we always had the same thing. We had the beef dip with the gravy. And I would probably find it absolutely revolting today, but back in the day, we couldn't get enough of that stuff.
Oh, my God. And they would do the endless fries on Friday, Saturday nights. They were trying to copy in Davie Village, that after-hours place that we used to always go to. You remember that on Davie Village?
Sure.
You get a huge pile of fries and gravy for like $3 or something.
I was very sad when that restaurant went out of business.
Yeah, everybody was.
And then we started going to Arbutus restaurant on Arbutus and 4th Avenue.
Yeah.
4th Avenue is still amazing.
Fourth hasn't really changed. There's still the original shops. I lived right across the street from right in the epicenter of Kitsilano, and there's still probably 5 or 6 shops that are actually original from the 30s and 40s that are still there. And one is a sewing shop, and they just refuse to sell. I hope they keep all those, because Robson Street used to be like that. Davie Village used to be like that. And then all of a sudden, all the law offices came in, the dental offices, the hairdressing places, all the high...
Robson Street had a very European quality to it. I remember every Saturday night, without fail, my dad took me and my mom to the Schnitzel House on Robson Street. And we had Wiener Schnitzel and pan-fried potatoes. It was absolutely amazing until I found out that veal was baby cows, and that kind of turned me off.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I have to admit, working in high-end restaurants, I did try but they call it sweetbreads, and it's from the thyroid gland, and it's very tender. The French will eat anything. I think most countries will eat anything, so you can't just blame it on the French.
No, we don't.
But I worked in many fancy restaurants, and we served sweetbreads and baby veal and so on, and it was a delicacy, and it was delicious. I have to admit, I do eat lots of protein. And the next to Kits Beach, the Kitsilano Showboat. I mean, talk about a free, wonderful entertainment thing. In the early 70s, probably the most iconic, reoccurring summer event in the best neighborhood in maybe the world, and that is Kitsilano Beach. Is they had free nightly performances and music and dance and cultural groups and families gathering after a day at Kits Beach and the Kits pool. And they had, from 80 to 90-year-old people doing tap dancing to 4 and 5-year-old kids dressed up in really cute outfits trying to do a rendition of some sort of a children's musical.
It was very charming.
It was very charming and very fun and free, and I always went because it was a great place to sit. And back in the day when they started charging to get into Kits Beach, I used to sneak into the Kitsilano pool via the showboat because there was a couple areas that nobody really knew.
So daring.
No, I was just frugal. I mean, my mom cut my allowance, and that's how I had to get my first job. And my first job was, of course, a paper route from the Paper Shack, which was in the back of Plymley's, right behind my grandmother's and my uncle's vitamin store, Source Vitamins. And Daryl Clan was running that, and he gave me a route. Like, he goes, be here at 4:30 in the morning. I'm like, why? Why do I have to be at 4:30? People sleep at 4:30 in the morning. Daryl lived right next to me at Belfour Rentals. I could hear Daryl snore. That's how close he was, right? And other things, but I won't go there, because we're an adult show. And so he gave me my first job as a paper route guy, and I did that, and I really didn't like getting up at 4:30 in the morning, even though I got up early anyways, because I trained in high school every morning at 6 o'clock for 5 years before school started, all sports. And then, so I got a better paying job down on Cornwall, right across the street from Johnny's school, Henry Hudson, and it's still there. You remember in Cornwall there, or your favorite place where you do karaoke and you enjoy a nice cold beverage, there's that slip alley, and on the right hand of that slip alley, which takes you into all those houses that are along Cypress, through the back alley,
Sure.
but it's a very narrow back alley. On the right hand side was an old pharmacy.
Okay.
And it was a Chinese fellow, and he called himself Bong. And I went in there, and I'd get candy, and I had my bike, and I didn't like to leave my bike outside, so I'd bring it in. He goes, "No, bring bike in my store." And I was like, "I don't want anybody to steal it. Get a lock." So we had this conversation. I buy candies, and I bring my bike in every day, and I ignore him because I didn't want it stolen. And he goes, okay, your bike, it's fine, no problem. You want a job? I need somebody. And I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I need a job, because I just quit my paper route. I didn't want to get up at 4:30 in the morning. And Daryl was taking advantage of me. He wasn't paying me. I wasn't getting CCP or anything like that. It was just really, wasn't making a lot of money. So Bong goes, "Bring your bike early in the morning, 6:30. And I'm like, oh no, what is it with these? I have to train at 6:30 in the morning. So he goes, "Okay, come back lunch." I said, "I'm in high school. I'm in school. I can't come back." Anyways, so I would go and pick up, and he would prepare all the pills that all of the blue hairs and the retired folks in Kitsilano and Kitts Point, all the drugs they were using.
You know what, Paul? You're not going to believe this. My first job was for People's Drug Mart, and I delivered prescription drugs on my bike to old people. Isn't that crazy? You didn't know that, did you?
No.
Isn't that nuts?
But you didn't know this either. So Bong set me up, and I did that for about 6 months. And the old folks were really nice. They were so lonely. Most of them were really lonely. Their families abandoned them, and they were so nice. They would have baked good for me, like an apple, like a tart. Anyways, it was incredible, and that was my second job. And that's when I realized, when I was 7, 8 years old, that I didn't care that my mom took the allowance anymore. And now I was independent. I had my own money. I had my own vehicle. That was my bike. And I learned to be independent. But these are stories of Kitsilano in 1972 and beyond. Johnny, what else can you remember that you want to bring up that you feel is really important to share?
Well, I mean, I've talked about this before, but just about every weekend, 2-3 weekends a month, my mom would take me to Collector's Books and Comics on Dunbar and 16th, which I think is right on pretty much on the borderline of Kitsilano.
I remember it well.
Yeah, I walked into that store, and I felt like I was Rod Taylor stepping out of the time machine. It was just so many old books and old comic books, and I could have spent the whole day there. And my mom spoiled me rotten. She bought me Silver Surfer #1. She bought me Daredevil #1. I wish
nice.
I could have them. And then the guy who ran the place, he was a virtual doppelganger of. I know you're not a big Simpsons fan, but you know who Comic Book Guy is?
No.
Comic Book Guy is a recurring character on The Simpsons. He's quite overweight. He's balding. He has a long.
I think I know the character you're talking about. I never watched the show.
He's very angry and bitter, and he's rude to the customers, and all he wants to do is read comic books all day. The guy who ran Collector's Books and Comics I almost wonder if he was based on that guy. I mean, he was sort of bare minimum friendly, but oh my God. And then there was the comic shop on 4th and Elma.
Oh,
my mom took me there on opening day, and it was nothing but shelves and shelves of comic books. And I remember thinking, gosh, there are other weirdos like me who like this stuff, and it was kind of reassuring. So those are some of my fondest memories.
Yeah, that's awesome. I
read 8 million comic books when I was a kid, and I was into Slog magazine.
Oh yeah, I mean, for those that have seen the show, we've done episodes. I think we've done 3 episodes of comic books, all with Keith Bickford and with Marianne as well. Well received for the most part, and of course, when the comic book moved from Elma, eventually it made its way up east on 4th Avenue to Arbutus. which is where we did the. Actually, our episode's still on. It's doing really well. It's got over 100 views, and at the end of the day, we could talk about Kitsilano for hours and hours and hours. And every time I go back to Vancouver, I'm in Kelowna. Johnny lives in Kitsilano. He lives directly, literally a block and a half from where he went to school in Henry Hudson's. And he's still there. And I would be still there too if I would made some different choices in my first couple of properties that I bought when I first came back from playing professional basketball in Europe and getting into real estate. I really miss Kits, and I have an affinity there. Every time I go back to Kits, I feel a sense of calm and safety, and it's like I belong here. And I remember the first.
I can't remember the last time I heard about a serious crime. I mean, knock on wood, I don't want to jinx this, but I can't remember the last time I heard about a serious crime.
Well, the crime is everywhere in every city in the world, and I'm sure it's still there, but it's not tolerated. Canadians are very friendly people, and they're very kind people, and foreigners, when they come, we want to reach out to people. We just enjoy being nice. It's what we do. Canada is the nicest country in the world. It's the best country in the world. And Vancouver is much maligned. We have some issues in Vancouver, like any other major cosmopolitan city in this world. But if you want to come to Vancouver, you've heard about Vancouver, even our American friends just south of us, a lot of them have never been to Vancouver before. I was just watching my favorite van life YouTube channel called The Chrome Project, and Chrome Valdez, who I've been following on his show, he's lived in a camper van his entire 9 years, and he has a brand new one, and he did a camper van festival, and I am jonesing for a camper van. I'm thinking about trading my hybrid, my Ford Escape hybrid, in for a camper van, and maybe a hybrid camper van, maybe not a true camper van, but something that I can still do camper van videos and take a weekend and not have to get a camping spot and sleep in my vehicle and save money, and that's what I'm really, really interested in doing. But in the meantime, it just brings me back to Kitsilano, and I've owned 3 camper vans. In my last episode, I told you about the Volkswagen Westphalia, the Pop Top 1971. I had a Ford Econoline 350 extended wheelbase pop top that was made by an Aldergrove couple that I bought. They retired it, and that thing took me across the Americas 3 and 4 times, and it saved my life. Incredible journey, incredible stories, and that will be for another interview. And then, of course, my third camper van was a Mercedes diesel 4-berth after I retired from basketball, and I was running a hostel in St. Ives, Cornwall, and I was going to travel all through Europe in it and explore. And instead, I used my last ticket when I was playing professional basketball to buy a ticket to go to South Beach and work under the table, and that's where I met my wife. Things happen for a reason. 28 years later. But for those that don't know Kitsilano, it is an extraordinary neighborhood. There are still businesses that have been in business in Kitsilano and Point Grey, the west side of Vancouver, that are still there. And the history of Kitsilano is still rejoiced and celebrated. And the location is absolutely superb. And finishing up the show, Johnny, is there anything else you want to close off with or say anything about Kitsilano?
Well, I think I pretty much said everything I want to say about Kits, but one of my favorite memories growing up in Vancouver was going to Playland and then the P&E, the Pacific National Exhibition.
Yeah, I knew you were going to bring that up.
Every summer. And we had this death trap, rickety roller coaster that probably should have been condemned decades ago.
And it's still running. It's still running.
The first time I went on that thing, I screamed my ass off. And then eventually, you got used to it. But I mean, all those amazing rides were the zipper with the cage.
Yeah.
Me around. So much fun.
By the way, just what Johnny just said, I don't know if you can actually scream your ass off, but if anybody could, it would have been Johnny.
Artistic license. I screamed on the mini roller coaster.
Yeah. Everybody screamed. I mean, that was the whole part about going out there, is watching people in panic freak out. It was great. But, I was on the that old rickety thing at the P&E. It was called the Pacific National Expedition. and it was a lot of fun.
And there was the wild Wasserfahrt, the German based roller coaster with the raft in the water.
Yeah, oh my God, that thing was rickety too, boy. And you get soaked on that. Yeah. But I always got the front seat at the thing, and I had these this really nice. You could tell they were German because they were actually wearing lederhosen, and unless they're tourists and they just wanted to, be what they thought was trendy, they were scared. You know what? And they were sitting right behind me. Well, the dude who was, I think, a little bit drunk, maybe because he was so scared. I don't know. He threw up all over me.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was really gross and big chunks, and it was like, oh my God. And so I cleaned myself out, and I told the guy, I said, look, I get a free run for this. So I bought a cheap T-shirt at the at the P&E, went into the bathroom and wiped myself down and changed. I still smelled like puke. It was gross. I think he had too many Bavarian sausages that day, too many beers, and went back, and I got my seat back, and I still loved it. That was a scary, because it's going to fall down, but the fact it's still been there over 100 years is remarkable. And the P&E was a great place, and other things too. We didn't really get festivals, but we did have the fireworks in the 70s that they used to do on Canada Day, which used to be called Memorial Day, I believe. And then of course we cannot forget, before we go, Greek Day in Kitsilano.
Of course.
When Louis had his 50th birthday, that was the 50th year of Greek Day, so I want to say 1975 was the first year.
I'm not good at math, but it sounds about right.
It's about right, and that's kind of when I met Johnny, and we used to go to Greek Day every June, and it would be dancing and souvlaki, and Ryan Cadman and I would go up on the top of Shoppers Drug Mart, and we go into McDonald's and get a fillet of fish and a Coke, and we take the oversized straws and we dry those out. We take it a couple of extra.
Styrofoam containers.
Yeah, and then we'd go to a dollar store and we'd buy a whole bunch of peas, big bag of peas, and we'd load them up in our mouth, and we'd sit on top of Shoppers Drug Mart and pick off hundreds of people with a barrage of peas in an oversized. True story. True story. And we just would be howling with laughter. And because nobody cared, everybody was drunk. That's when they really drank a lot on Greek Day, before it got carried away a couple of times and they had to put rules in. But Vancouver has a reputation of being kind of a boring city, and the people are. It's not boring if you like the outdoors. Every time I go back to my place in Vancouver, I get on my bike every day and I do the seawall. And I do 9-10K, the same thing I do in Kelowna. And because the seawall is flat, it's the best way to see Vancouver. If you're only here for a few days, get in your hotel, rent a bike, and do the 30 kilometers around Stanley Park, which is one of the best parks in the world. It's over 200 hectares with some of the oldest growth forest. There's just so much. We could go on for hours. But at the end of the day, Johnny, you still live in Kits.
Yeah.
And there's no other place that you would live, and you'll be probably in your place for a long time.
I don't know. They're going to tear that building down one of these days.
Sooner than later, bro.
Probably. So, that is in the forefront of my mind. So yeah. I'm absolutely malleable to living somewhere else. But if I spend the rest of my years in Kits, or maybe some other place, but I prefer to stay in Kits. It really is quite amazing. And
it's incredible.
And it kind of, I feel like it suits me. You just sparked a memory of me and Brian Alk, our mutual friend. We used to go to the Sandman Inn, maybe not every summer, but we would on Georgia Street, and we'd pretend we were guests, and we'd use the rec facilities. We walk in in our swim trunks, and we grab a couple of towels, and we spend the whole day swimming in the beach. And I think we sometimes even told people that we were like from California. And
not surprising. I could see you guys doing that. And by the way, I worked for the owner of the Sandman chain at Moxie's when I ran his bar called the M Bar. And that's Tom Gallardi, who owns the Dallas Stars. And anyways, true story. I remember that place. I remember it really well. The Century Plaza was the tallest place with the rooftop 360-degree restaurant up there. Is no longer there. Vancouver's changed a lot. Yeah. It's a concrete the downtown is a concrete jungle. and there isn't any one building that matches any other building. So it's really quite unique. A lot of people say ugly, but I don't want to be rude.
Very eclectic.
It is eclectic, and it's really cool architecture, and I love architecture. I love real estate. I love buildings.
The Hotel Vancouver is still really awesome.
Yeah. But listen, we just wanted to, everybody, we want to do a short video on Kitsilano Beach because and if you read about the Canadian Bro Show, at the Canadian Bro Show, you see our logo up top. It's a free entertainment. We've been at this for just a little under 2 years now. We've got about 140 episodes. And one of the things I like to talk about are neighborhoods of Vancouver. So we're going to be doing a neighborhood area. And we have talked about Kits in the past, but we really wanted to talk about Kits because that's where I met Johnny in 1972, and Mike Bashinsky and a whole bunch of other incredible people. And a lot of these people are still friends to this day. If you've never had the opportunity to come to Vancouver and spend some time, please base yourself in Kits or downtown, because you will have access to every single great neighborhood, and there's about 15 neighborhoods right in the epicenter of the downtown core. Yeah, phenomenal location. And you're surrounded by water, you're surrounded by mountains, you're surrounded by nature. It's just one of the most remarkable cities in the world. And if you're interested in coming to Vancouver and you enjoy what we're doing here at the Canadian Bro Show podcast, before we go, Johnny and I just want to say, please, if you could subscribe, like, and you enjoy this channel, share, comment. And if you come to Vancouver, if you have any questions about Vancouver and further places, Johnny and I can be a wealth of knowledge. And we can tell you, we can do a list of 50 things you can do in Vancouver. And of course, if you have the time. But we do appreciate you doing the show. But before we go, and talk about, it's been a great episode. Episode 77 is Kitsilano Beach, 1972. The best neighborhood in Vancouver, BC, eh? And that is a journey to the early 70s with all things Canadian with Pauly and Johnny. And this is the Canadian Bro Show podcast. And before we sign out, we like to do a couple of things at the episode. One is Johnny is a prolific writer. And he has a character that he writes about. And Johnny, I'll let you explain that and explain it nice and slow for everyone so they understand the character, his name, where it is, New York, the time frame. By the way, early 70s, no surprise. And then after that, we'll talk about the most current book that we're reading, and Johnny will finish up the show with a pun.
Very good. Okay, thanks so much, Paul. Well, I'm John Leister. I'm a self-published author. My boy is named Lee Hacklin. He's a private investigator. My stories are set primarily during the 1970s in New York City, because all the Marvel comics I read took place in New York City. He's a smoker, he's a drinker, but he has a heart of gold, and he's absolutely ruthless when it comes to dealing with the bad guys. Okay, my latest Lee Hacklin story. Anyone who wants to be a self-published author, I highly recommend Draft to Digital, and also use Poster My Wall. That's how I design my book covers. Okay, Lee Hacklin, private investigator in Sugar and Spice and All Things Dice. Chapter 1. New York City, 1975. I was in my office. My one window was stuck in place like a fly on flypaper. The July heat was more oppressive than communism, and I was deeply immersed in my latest literary diversion, a treasury-sized comic book adaptation of the Bible, published by DC, written by Sheldon Mayer, and drawn by one of my favorite artists, Joe Kubert. His Hawkman is wicked cool. Thou shalt not kill. Everything in life has fine print. In this agnostic's mind's eye, the 10 Commandments were no exception. How about thou shalt not kill an innocent? Killing is what stopped Hitler from conquering the world. Context. Context is everything. The elevator down the hall laughed at me. Unlike your mouth, Lee, I'm staying closed. Forever and ever. Amen. Don't worry, you won't starve. There's a soup kitchen just down the street. Today's special is chicken noodle, fresh from the can. My savings account was akin to John Barlow Martin's description of television, a vast wasteland, and my rent was due tomorrow. No worries. I can always pitch a tent on Coney Island. Elevator doors, I command thee, open. or I will smite thee, as surely as God smited the Tower of Babel. And then I heard a sound that made me very happy. That actually worked, or so I like to imagine. A tall, rail-thin man in his middle years stepped out. He looked dignified and distinguished in a turquoise silk suit and shiny lace-ups. His head was weirdly rectangular, and his crew cut was all business. He entered my office. I stood, tucked in my Keep On Truckin' t-shirt, and we shook hands. Good morning, Lee Hockland. I know who you are for F's sakes. Let's get on with it. I'm Roscoe Leone. No relation, but I love those spaghetti westerns. Who the hell doesn't? I'll tell you who, Lee Hockland. Fairies. That's it for it. I had a date with Tinkerbell last night. Her favorite movies, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. There are always exceptions, sir. Coffee? ASAP. Lose the wisecracks. That's not how you make friends. He sat in one of my client chairs. I fired up my coffee maker, and then I realized who he was. He ran security at the Lucky You Casino in Times Square. Rudy, his brother, was the owner. Alas, his 44th birthday was his last. He was found dead on a Sunday morning in his caddy. It was idling in the casino parking lot. Cause of death? Involuntary ingestion of pine sol. There are some truly wicked people in the world.
Geez.
It was my purpose to stop them and smite them if necessary. And it's purpose that gives our lives meaning. And that's chapter 1 of Sugar and Spice and All Things Dice. My latest awesome Lee Hockland mystery. That was some bias.
Oh my God.
Cheers.
I mean, seriously.
It is a privilege to be able to share my literary talents and to be judged for good or ill, either way is fine. Thank you.
I think that's maybe your new literary agent.
Hopefully.
God, please. Anyways, nice work, Johnny. Do you want to start off with what you're reading this week?
One of my favorite authors is William W. Johnstone. He passed away many years ago. An unbelievably prolific writer. This guy wrote hundreds of books, mostly westerns. And his niece is J.A. Johnstone, and she's taken over the series. These books are so good.
What's that one called again? Sorry.
Called As Good as Dead. It's actually a combination of two books about Spoke Jensen, who's a rancher. It's kind of like Bonanza. Just really old school stories. Like really
love the title though, eh, bro?
Yeah, and great heroic characters and a lot of very idiosyncratic supporting characters. Really fun. I'm a huge fan of this guy.
Very nice.
Cheers.
Very nice. So I'm not going to show a book. I am a collector. Johnny and I have done numerous episodes on comic books and basketball cards and collector items. And I've been, as you can tell from what's behind me, I have a number of, I'm a hoop junkie, which is a name for somebody that really loves basketball. And if you've seen this show, you probably understand that. I used to play professional basketball. Believe it or not, 28 years ago?
Wow.
Oh my God, man. How old are we, bro?
Your studio looks really nice, by the way. It's immaculate. Your studio, just the way it's set up.
Thank you.
It looks like a professional store. It looks
that's how I set it up. But thank you kindly. I do appreciate that, and I spent a lot of time in this and visioned. I've been working on this a while time. So what I'm reading right now is I just want to show you some things. And the first one I want to show you is this Michael Jordan Bulls card.
I actually know who that is.
Yeah, you do. And then this one, Michael Jordan again.
Very cool.
They're all Michael Jordan cards. And this one. And, oh, look at that. What a great photo, man.
Paul really likes basketball.
Yeah, and this one. So this is the one I've been going through all my Jordan cards and finding out what they're worth. And this collection that I'm showing you right now, I'm 90% sure. Where are we here? That all of these cards I just showed you, this is when Jordan quit basketball to be a professional baseball player and pulled it off. Yeah, for a couple years. And this is his Wheaties one that used to be in his thing. So all of these 10 Michael Jordan cards I just showed you, I just found out after research last night, that I'm sitting on approximately over $2,000 worth of Michael Jordan cards.
Wow, congratulations.
Maybe more. So that's what I'm reading because I'm a hoop junkie. And look at my office, my studio. It's all basketball. That's great. And so while we're finishing up, we're just going to do, Johnny likes to do, he's a writer, but he likes to do puns because he finds them really funny, and some of them are really funny. Johnny, what do you got for us today before we wrap the show up?
Okay, here we go. This might be a rerun. I'm not 100%, but I'll give it a go. Why do we say amen in church instead of women? Because we sing hymns, not hers.
Oh, God, that's really good. Really good. I've never heard that one before. That is good, bro.
I'm glad.
Anyways, everybody, thank you again for watching the show. I would just like to say if you're interested in the show, it's free content. We have a lot of fun. We're having a real nice growth spurt. And we just encourage anybody that if you enjoy this, we really appreciate you subscribing, liking, commenting, sharing. And all comments that come in, we answer, every single one of them. And we really care about it. And plus, if you have an interesting story and you're Canadian, if you're a female bro or a male bro and you'd like to be on the show, reach out to Johnny and I. And we can talk about it and we'll explore it because this is all things Canadian from Pauly and Johnny. And this is episode 77. Kitsilano Beach neighborhood, 1972. The best neighborhood in the best city in the world. Thank you very much for joining us. Johnny, I'm going to take you out.
Very good.
And I'll talk to you in the after show. And I'm going to remove myself shortly thereafter. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next week. And we appreciate the love, the kindness, and the continued support. Everybody, if I may say one last thing, please be kind out there. Just do something nice for somebody. Don't expect anything. And change somebody's moment. Change somebody's second, their day, their life by being kind. It's that simple. It's free. Take care. We love you all here at the Canadian Bro Show. And we'll see you next episode. Peace, love, and happiness.